Hey everybody, it's Leon with another absolutely simple tutorial. Now, when you're just getting started with a new Relic, most of what you need is available right out of the box. The pre-built agents, the quick starts, the online resources, they give you a solid foundation to implement the comprehensive monitoring and observability with minimal effort. However, no solution has absolutely everything. So what do you do when you have almost everything you need, but are short of a few critical elements like metrics or logs or traces melt? There's a lot of things you could do. First, you could put in a feature request and then wait and pray, maybe scream, possibly drink. It might help. Spoiler. It doesn't. Anyway, you could also ask the community and see what they come up with, which isn't a bad idea at all, but it's hit or miss. Maybe somebody's tried to do what you wanted, or maybe they haven't. Maybe their solution is perfect for you. Maybe you're going to have to do a lot of customization. Who knows? You could also shop for yet another tool. I mean, you only have 27 others, right? What's one more? No, you don't buy another tool. What you do, the most logical thing to do, is to see if the tool you have can collect custom metrics, custom values, custom traces, just, add that one thing. And the good news is in New Relic, you can. And this is what's called the Flex. Yes, I'm not going to do the pump you up thing. No, I'm not. Integration. It's called the Flex SDK or Flex Integration. It's an application agnostic tool set, or again, integration. You can use just about anything, whether it's a bash script or PowerShell or Perl or a command line or anything to get the data that you want and send it into New Relic with minimal fuss or muss. Now in this video, what I'm going to show you is a simple example, the absolutely simple example of how to do that. First of all, what I want to start with is what it's going to look like. So let me just pop that up on the screen here. And what we can see, there I am on the side, what we can see down here is this flex test available bytes. I'm collecting the available bytes on my system and pushing it into New Relic. Now, I could get that information anyway. This is not like, oh, wow, you're really going to want to implement this. I'm just showing you a simple example, and you can extrapolate it from there. So to start off with, I want to talk about how we're getting this. Like, what are we doing to get this information? Well, what we're doing, there we go, is I'm running the df command. Now, df normally, I'm on a Unix system. If you're on a Windows system, it works just fine also, or a Mac system or whatever. I'm using df. It tells me about my storage. And in this case, I'm running df-pt-b1- and we're a bunch of excludes, which we're going to leave out for right now. This gives me the file system, the type of file system, the blocks, the used, the available, the capacity, and so on. And this is what I'm getting. And this is mostly what I want to get in. Now, what I don't want is I don't want those temp directories or the temp directories. So what I can also do is, okay, so exclude the temp fs. Now I've got a command that will give me just the quote-unquote real storage arrays or storage systems on the system that I want to bring in. And I'm going to bring in all those other data elements along the way. So now I have a command that works. So how do I get this to work? Well, to start off with, you install the infrastructure agent. Now, I already have a tutorial on how to install that, so I'm not going to do that now. But I want to explain how this is working. It uses the Flex integration, which you automatically get when you install the infrastructure agent. Let me show you a little bit of a picture here. Okay, let's zoom in. There we go. So you start off, you've got a thing. Whoops, there we go. You've got a thing you want to monitor. And onto that thing, you're going to install the agent, right? And in the agent, you have the Flex integration. It's just automatically there. You didn't have to do anything special. And the Flex integration uses YAML files. We'll talk a little bit more about those in the future. But the YAML file simply says, this is the command to run, this is the data to pull, this is how to get it, etc. Okay, and finally, any YAML file that's there automatically gets pushed into New Relic. You do not need to give a license key. You don't have to do any of that stuff because it's already there. Okay, so if I have a system and I have the New Relic infrastructure agent already installed, now what? Well, you have to go to the directory and create the YAML file. In the case of Linux, it's going to be etc new relic infra integrations.d. Now, if you happen to be running a Windows box, it's going to be in C, Program Files, New Relic Infra, Integrations D. So it's going to be in the program directory instead of the Etsy directory. But otherwise, it's going to be the same place. And in this directory, let me clear my screen here. In that directory, you have a bunch of files. Now, really, you're only going to have one file in there when you start off. There's not going to be much of anything. But obviously, I put a few things in here as I'm playing around with other things. And that's the YAML file. So let me show you what this YAML file looks like. There it is. This now, I'm not going to go over everything. And by the way, all of this is available in a tutorial. We actually have a Flex step-by-step tutorial. And the integration, the YAML file is, let's see here, there we go. It's right there. You can actually just copy and paste it if you want to. Let's go back here for a moment. So I've got the name, which is NRI Flex. It always has to be NRI Flex. Now I have the name of the configuration, Linux File System Integration, the test flex. That's important. I just want to point out the test flex. And then the command to run is this df-pt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. As we looked before, it gives you a list. It simply excludes the tempfs and some other file system types that I don't actually have right now. And the other stuff I'm going to leave aside because this is a simple example, not the really deep dive example. I'm going to be doing more, so don't worry about it. But this is the thing. So that's it. That's literally it. It is now collecting this information and sending it into New Relic. You don't have to do anything else except have the YAML file in that directory. And once it exists, once that flex test exists, it's going to start doing it. Okay, where's my data then? Well, let's go back here. To see the data, you need to do some NRQL. Now, for those people who think NRQL is a really cool name for a cat, it actually is a cool name for a cat, but it's not the name of a cat. It's a New Relic query language, and that's what it is. So how do I take a look at it? Well, over on the side of your one.newrelic.com dashboard, you have the query builder. You can click on that. It puts you in the query builder. Now, if you haven't used the query builder a lot, that's okay. Quick primer, like really quick primer. From metric, yes, that's a thing, select star. Now, if you're familiar with query languages at all, this should be somewhat familiar. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm not going to compare with, I'm not going to with, I'm not going to anything. I'm just going to run. This is going to give me a bunch of metrics. Okay, yay. So all I'm doing here is showing you that it is a query language. It has a syntax. The syntax is very qual, not SQL, but qual familiar, a little bit, it'll take a minute to get used to, but it's fine. However, in this case, I want to point out that to get the stuff that you want, what you're going to do is you're going to say test flex sample. Sample. Now, what is that? Let me just take a minute. Remember I said it's going to be important to remember test flex? That's the name of the data you're sending, and then New Relic simply tacks the word sample onto the end of it. However, what you should have noticed by now is that there is command completion. So if I say test flex, I can see test flex sample. You can also see speed test sample because I was doing that in a different video. Okay, test flex sample, select star. That's it. That's all I want to do. And what I'm going to see is that I'm collecting data, okay? I'm getting the available bytes, the capacity bytes, so on and so forth, the file system. All of that is being collected. Wonderful. So I want to make it into a chart. It's a table. Let me make it into a chart. I can't make it into a chart. Why can't I make it into a chart? Because this isn't really chartable data. Like, which lines do you want me to draw? So, all right, fine. So I'm not going to select star. What I'm going to select is available bytes. That's what I want. That should be graphable. Run. All right, now make it a no. Why not? Because there's too many data points and it needs to be averaged together for the time period. Now, the time period you'll be able to set interactively. You can say for the last hour or the last 6 hours, but you do have to tell it average available bytes. And then the other thing you do need to say is time series. That way it knows to clue in on the time series when you're picking it. You could set automatically, or you could just leave it blank. Now, in fact, it automatically picked line. You could do an area chart, you could do a line chart, you can do a stacked bar chart, but there's my data. There's only one little problem. I want to go back to my command, and I'm going to go back up to that df command that I did a minute ago. So there's my data. There's my line. Which of those drives is it? Well, it's not. It's showing me all of them. It's giving me all the available bytes munged together. That doesn't help. So in this case, what I need to do is I need to add basically a group by. For those people who are familiar with SQL, it's a group by. In NRQL, it's called a facet. And the facet is going to be file system. That's all I need to say is basically you're grouping by with a facet of file system. Now when I run it, you can see down at the bottom, I have my 3 different drives, and I have my 3. The one is at the bottom because it doesn't have a whole lot. Now I'm ready to put this, let me just run this one more time. There we go. Now I'm ready to add this to a dashboard. How do I do that? Add to dashboard. I pick which dashboard I want. This is the dashboard that I want. And going back to all of my dashboards, because I've actually already done this, and this is where we started. The Leon Dell dashboard. And down at the bottom, flex test available bytes. It's picking up those 3 drives, and I'm sending that in. Now, just as a reminder, my goal was to show you the absolutely most simple example of flex integration and custom metrics collection in New Relic. There is obviously a lot more to cover, and I will be doing exactly that in some upcoming videos. But for now, this should be enough to get you started. Thanks for watching.